Broadcasting live on WNN 1470 AM, 95.3 FM, iHeartRadio, and the World Wide Web. This is Make America Think Again with your Google Blacklisted host, Tom Trento.
Danger, Will Robinson. Danger. No, Will Robinson. Danger.
All right, radio world out there on a Monday, December 7th. Our many thanks to Brian and Steve for delivering such a wonderful audience. It's just great. How you doing, Susie?
Good morning. Feeling great on this Monday.
Is
it's
it
raining.
True? Is
raining.
it true that you've been to the gym already this morning?
I went to the gym. Yep. Got up bright and early, a little later than you do. You get up at the really not even the crack of dawn. You're in the middle of night.
Yeah.
But no, I get up at 5:30, get ready, go to the gym, change there.
Oh, you do.
And then I come straight from the
All
gym.
right.
By the time you guys are gone, all the worms are gone, man. By the time I get there.
Early
No
bird watching in her jammies. Mary's watching in her jam. Hey, radio
Mary.
world, I got a very important question for all of the listeners and viewers today. You're viewing on theunitedwest.org. Ignore all the crazy warnings. There's nothing wrong with the site. We have to keep saying that. Constant battle with big tech. But all the radio world out there driving in your cars on this Monday, big week, gigantic week. We're going to tell you a little bit about it. But here's our guiding question for the day. Here's our big idea. Is it possible that a philosophical attack against the United States can be more dangerous than a physical attack against the United States? I'm going to say that again. And then you're going to listen carefully to a piece of history. Is it possible that a philosophical attack against the United States can be more dangerous than a physical attack against the United States 79 years ago?
You want to try it?
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan.
That's it. You want to play more of it?
Yeah, just a little more. He gets into...
All right.
Yesterday, that's a day after. That's December 8th, 1941. But today is what?
Today's December 7th.
Yeah, today's the 79th memorial anniversary of that attack. Play a little more, and then I'll make the connection between our big idea today.
The United States was at peace with that nation, and at solicitation of Japan, still in conversation with its government and its emperor, looking toward the maintenance of peace in the Pacific. Indeed, 1 hour after Japanese air squadrons had commenced bombing in the American island of Oahu, the Japanese ambassador to the United States and his colleague delivered to our Secretary of State a formal reply to a recent American message. And while this reply stated that it seemed useless to continue the existing diplomatic negotiations, it contained no threat or hint of war or of armed attack. It will be recorded that the distance of Hawaii from Japan makes it obvious that the attack was deliberately planned many days or even weeks ago.
Is that it?
During the intervening time,
Yeah, that's good. To bring back a little bit of history, and the historic setting was very obvious. There were tensions in the Pacific, but the United States was at peace with Japan, and there were ongoing diplomatic considerations. But Roosevelt's making the point that the timing of all of this, and later on in that message, the Day of Infamy, later on he says the distance and the timing shows premeditated, probably weeks in advance, sneak attack. And the rest is history. We know about what happened in Pearl Harbor. You were there, you said.
I did. I visited there about 5 years ago.
I have never been there yet. But today, the question for us today, as we're in the midst of political chaos and cultural confusion all over the United States, the question is, can a philosophical attack, a cultural attack, be more dangerous than a physical attack against this country? And for the rest of the week, we're gonna lay out the reasons why absolutely the cultural attack by the hardcore left, the Marxists, the socialists that are insinuating themselves in government here, and big tech supporting it, and the Democrat Party endorsing it, all of this. This is a dangerous time for a constitutional republic and for individuals who hold to the United States Constitution as the framework and the foundation, and the Judeo-Christian worldview as the basis for what we do. Going to be an interesting week.
It's going to be a great week, and we have some great guests that are coming on.
What's today look like?
Today we have Ginger Howard, who is the Committeewoman for the RNC in Georgia. We also have the Committeeman, Peter Feaman, who's the Committeeman for Florida. So we have some great
their counterparts,
experts, yes, and certainly there's so much going on in Georgia. So we look forward to speaking with Ginger Howard. And something else about Ginger, other than being the Committeewoman, is she owns the Ginger Howard clothing store, which I was reading this morning that as a devout Christian, her specialty in clothing and ensuring that women always dress their very best, she specializes in classy and modest dress.
Okay,
which I certainly can relate to. I think
as an observant Jew,
observant Jew,
yes.
And there's times when I should probably dress a little bit more modestly. So I don't know if those
we're gonna ask
those that
Ginger,
are watching. I have actually been dressing more.
You got a Harley
Davidson
jacket.
I got my Harley jacket. Yeah.
I don't know if Ginger's going to approve of that.
I don't know. I don't know if I wore this on the right day, but I left my boots home.
But you're usually
I brought my gun.
You're a fashionista, but you're a fashionista. So
yes, but I think modesty is really it's classy. Showing too much is not as classy. It's better for there to be some concealed.
You agree, Mark? Mark,
I
I agree. As an evangelical Christian, I agree.
Yes.
Well, we got a lot going on, and there's 3 cases that have been filed in Georgia that are significant cases. One is being heard 10 o'clock this morning. The Pennsylvania tomorrow, Justice Alito sped up the timeline to fall within the guidelines of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So a lot of things going on, but why don't we start?
So let's start. Guest? So we're so happy to welcome Ginger Howard as our guest this morning. And I'm so glad that I knew about you before, but I read up a little bit more today. So it's so nice to finally meet you somewhat in person and to have you on the show. So welcome.
Thank you. What a wonderful opportunity. Good morning to you, and thank you for having me on this morning.
Well, we're glad you're here. Just by way of quick review, so you have a context for who we are, what we do. We're basically an educational counterterrorism organization that goes after the ideologies that mitigate against the United States, whether it's Islamic or Marxist. We put all of that on hold, most of that on hold. Past 2 years, we assembled a phenomenal team here in Florida, 10, 15 other organizations, Jewish organizations, Christian organizations, to mobilize 1,000,001 evangelicals for Donald Trump to get him reelected in the state of Florida on November 3rd, 2020. I've said that 10 million times. And we did it, Ginger.
Thank you. We appreciate your hard work.
It was hard work. And we thought we'd have a break and go to the beautiful beaches 2 miles from here. But we saw our sister state to the north in the midst of ground zero. You are in the midst of ground zero for the future of America in many, many respects, at least according to Chuck Schumer. And we said, you know what? Let's reload and point ourselves north. And we have a ground game going on there. We have time. We're on AM 920, The Answer, out of Atlanta. We're broadcasting out of there. We're going to have you on that segment too. We'll put that together another time. But that's who we are. But you are a phenomenal individual doing amazing work. We know about your background, and our contact, our colleague up in the Savannah area, Mary, has put us together with you. So tell everybody who you are, what you do, and then let's get into the elements of the Georgia chaos.
Thank you so much. My name is Ginger Howard, and I am the Republican National Committeewoman for Georgia. And Peter is my dear friend, and he actually sits next to me on the Rules Committee. We serve on the Rules Committee together, so that's exciting. I am a small business owner, but I am a co-author with Alveda King on a new book called We're Not Colorblind, Healing the Racial Divide, which is another time I'll come back on and we'll talk about that, because
Excellent.
all that's going on in our nation with the division in our country, we have addressed that. But today I'm here to talk to you about ground zero, as you said. And I want you to know that the very first people that I met on the recount day were two amazing people from Florida who helped us, because they had been in charge of the recount, or part of the team, back in 2000 with the Gore Bush. So they were here teaching us some things. So I said, would you help us get it right? Because how is it that a state that has 2 time zones can get all of their counting done in one night, and we're still counting votes here?
Yeah, that's a fabulous question. And we're going to bring your colleague who sits next. We had no idea that Peter Feaman sits next to you. I see him smiling in the wings over in the green room.
See how things work out.
Yeah,
Everything is so perfect.
You know what? Let's bring him on right now. Peter Feaman. Welcome, Peter. Here. Do you know this lady by any chance, Peter?
I got to unmute. He's got to unmute. He's got to
unmute, Peter. You got to unmute.
I know Ginger Howard very well. She's a star at the Republican National Committee.
Thank you, Peter. And
Well,
you are too. I love you, Peter. I'm so glad you're doing well. You and your sweet wife. And I saw Peter and his beautiful wife last week. We were at the White House. It was so much fun with the president.
That's true. I'm going to post a picture of it this morning on my Facebook page.
Right.
Well, Ginger, you may know Peter's been writing the Backhoe Chronicles. Backhoe is the machine which you drain the swamp. You go and dig out the swamp. I think he's on like 70 or 71, number 71. But we got both of you here today. And for our audience, our show has a combination of, we call it edutainment. We entertain a little bit because you got to kick back.
Right. We
bit.
want people to enjoy the show and want to tune in.
And we got to kick out the hardcore educational part. For the Floridians, Americans, and Georgians, give us a sense of what's going on with these hearings and the situation in Georgia, Ginger, and then Peter, we'll bring you in to comment on Georgia, and then we'll get a look at the rest of the country. Go ahead, Ginger.
Well, I was not able to go down to the hearings the other day. I was at my store, but I did get to watch them last night. They replayed them on Newsmax, and it is just mind-boggling. I already known these things. I have spent 11 hours at a time at the Georgia GOP with every attorney you can imagine. People have flown in from all over the country, volunteering their time, mind you. They're not getting paid, and they're coming up with helping get affidavits from witnesses and all of these things. And I have to tell you, the fraud and the irregularities in Georgia are beyond anything that you can imagine. And anybody that tells you otherwise is under a rock, because that is not true.
Now, has your state officially certified the results, and Joe Biden is the president in the eyes of the electors in the state of Georgia?
Well, officially, in the sense of they did the first time before the recount, and in order to do a recount, you have to do that. But to answer your question, the electors don't do that until December the 14th. So we have a lot of lawsuits going on that can stop that because it was a fraudulent election.
Peter, you're an attorney. Last time we looked, logically, can a state certify if there's pending lawsuits?
Yes. Yes, the whole procedure is broken down into two phases. There's the pre-certification phase and the post-certification phase. The pre-certification phase involves stopping the vote tallies if there's illegal activity, that sort of thing. But once a state has certified the results, then we launch into the lawsuit phase, which is one track. And then we go into the state legislature phase, which is the second track. And these are parallel tracks that the Trump administration, the Trump campaign, I should say, is proceeding on to challenge the results. And so we have lawsuits in various states to decertify the election results for the Electoral College. But then at the same time, we have hearings before state legislatures, which you saw last week in Michigan, to show the state legislatures that there is so much fraud involved in these in this election that the state legislature should not allow their electoral votes to be counted. Now that involves a lot of what you saw yesterday. So it's two tracks at the same time. And if a sufficient number of state legislatures refuse to certify the Electoral College votes in that state, then they don't count. And it could bring Mr. Biden's Electoral College tally to under 270. If no candidate gets 270 electoral votes, then it goes to the House of Representatives. And the House of Representatives is not one representative, one vote. It's one vote per state. And that's controlled by what party has the majority of congressmen and women in that state. And in the United States, Republicans now control 27 delegations in the House. So if it did go to the House, we're confident that they would vote for Donald Trump to be reelected as president of the United States.
Wow. Unbelievable.
Wow.
Ginger, you're one of your star qualities, as Peter has said, is you're very close to your constituents. You're traveling the state. You're on the ground. What is the sense for the constituents right now on both sides? What is the sense? Where are Georgians on this issue?
Tom, I will tell you, people are very angry. I've never, ever, well, maybe when the Tea Party started, but even at that level of anger, I've not seen. People are angry. They do not like the way this went down, in the sense that they feel disenfranchised. They're concerned about our January 5th runoff we have got to win that with Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue. But a lot of them are saying, why should I vote? If my vote doesn't count, if I'm going to be disenfranchised with all the fraud that happened now. So I'm telling you, people, the number one word I would say to you right now is they are very angry.
Yeah. Mark, you had a question, then I
Sure,
think,
and
Susan, you had a
rightfully
question.
so. Yeah.
Real quick, Ginger or Peter, primarily for Ginger. I'm hearing reports of people who are getting absentee ballots in Tennessee and all over the place, and some people are getting absentee ballots who are dead. Their dead children are actually getting absentee ballots right now from Georgia. Now, a lot of this fraud could have been usurped if we would have checked these things in the beginning. Who do these people contact who are getting these dead ballots, these absentee ballots, and what's the resolution to put a stop to this?
That's a good question. My minister actually tweeted out that he got at his address where his daughter has never lived. She has lived abroad for decades. He got 3 ballots for her, 2 or 3 for her at her house. So, but I would say go to the Secretary of State. I mean, it's so frustrating at this point because we have so many absentee ballots that are going all over the place and coming in from all over the place. It's kind of a free for all.
Is there anybody in the Trump campaign or anything like that that could highlight this? Or Peter, do you have any? Or yeah, either one.
We have some attorneys here that are helping with that. Peter, do you know if there's one person that is in charge of all of that?
There is a website that is collecting all reports of fraud, and that website is DJT45.
DJT45, Donald J. Trump 25.
Right, .go .com/stop fraud.
Okay, we can put that up. So there is a website where people can report the incidents of fraud. The hearing you referred to earlier, Ginger, they had a litany of these sort of abuses, and 60,000 people under 18 voting, 10,000 dead people voting. Stacey Abrams, we want to hear about Stacey Abrams and Ossoff and Warnock in a minute, those guys. But Susie Gold has a question for you.
Yeah. So my question to you is, how will the elections be changed then, or fixed, or ensured for accuracy and where there isn't any fraud for the upcoming election with Perdue and Loeffler?
Thank you for asking that question. And that is what I'm hearing from all of our constituents. And that is why they are so concerned about voting. And that if we don't have a check and balance in place, the same thing might happen again. So there's several lawsuits going on right now, and some are to ensure this next election that we have some checks and balances. There a lot of things happen in this last election where the chain of command, especially from the absentee ballots, if y'all watched any of the hearings, my dear friend Susie Boyles was one of the witnesses, where she talked about getting all these ballots that were not folded, they were pristine, and they all went for Biden. So things like that, if we don't have a chain of command at the next time, so we are really fighting for that.
And then there's also the question of Dominion being connected to the internet, so which opens up for manipulation. So all of this needs to be fixed before the election.
And that's the problem, that we don't have much time. And I for one, and I hope that we totally get rid of those Dominion machines and never, ever take them to the graveyard and never use them again.
Ginger, here's a situation, and Peter, you can weigh in on this also. You have 11 million people in Georgia, 80% Christians, and our goal right now is to mobilize the evangelicals. Well, there's quite a few black evangelicals, but they're turning 70-80% for Warnock. Primarily, he's an African American, and what needs to be done? You wrote a book with Alveda King. What needs to be done to wake Christians up? I mean, this guy last night in the debate just violated, I happen to be a theologian, an evangelical theologian, violated almost all biblical principles, especially when he talks about Matthew 25 being the basis for his view of the economy. What is the messaging that Georgia has for the African Americans in Georgia, that you got to vote your faith? You can't vote because the guy's black. You can't do that. What's the messaging?
That is so important, Tom, and I'm so glad you brought that up, because my friend that I wrote my book with, Alveda King, is working on that. And in fact, last week, she and her goddaughter, Angela Stanton King, who actually ran against John Lewis's seat and unfortunately lost in the 5th district, they did a peaceful protest in front of Ebenezer Baptist Church. They were protesting against Reverend Warnock because of his abortion stance and all of these other stances that are totally anti-biblical. And as a Christian, whatever color of your skin is, you need to vote for biblical principles. And if it does not line up with the Bible, then I don't care who is running, you don't vote for that person. My minister gave the most amazing sermon yesterday. And in his sermon, he said, if as a Christian, you vote for someone who believes in abortion, which is murder, then you are complicit with that.
Well, Peter, you're a very serious evangelical Catholic Christian. What has to happen in Georgia to wake people up? Prayer.
This is as much a spiritual battle as it is a political battle. And without millions of prayer warriors, we will not prevail. With millions of prayer warriors, we will prevail. And so I think first and foremost, we need to work like it's up to us in Georgia, but pray like it's up to God. And in the end, we'll prevail.
All right. Did you watch the debate last night between Loeffler and Warnock, Peter?
I did not. We have a lot going on in Nevada, Arizona, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. So My focus was elsewhere.
Well, be glad you didn't, because you would have pulled more hair out of your head if you would have watched it. I want to get an update on those states in a minute. But
Because before this election started, I had
I talked to a good friend last night. He's having blood pressure issues. His blood pressure is going through the roof. I sent him Psalm 23. I said, read this, Jewish guy. I said, read this. You'll be okay. So, did you watch the debate, Ginger?
I most certainly did. I watched every minute of it.
You don't strike us as a person prone to swear words, but sometimes in the quietness of your own home, when you watch such absurdity, words come out. Did any words that your mama wouldn't like
say on the radio?
No, I promise you I won't do that. In fact, before I came on this interview, I prayed this prayer, said a watch over my mouth and be the doorkeeper of my lips.
Okay, good, because you're on the radio here, but you weren't in your home. What did you think when you saw that debate with Warnock and the stuff he was saying?
I was appalled. And as you said, I just pray that people see through that, because sometimes, unfortunately, when you say Bible verses or you say things, people that aren't really in the know might think, oh, well, he's a Christian, he's a man of God. But if you look at his policies, they don't line up with the Bible. And when he said, I'm a Matthew 25 Christian, well, what does that mean? I mean, I'm a Genesis to Revelation Christian. I'm a Christian from all over. I mean, what does that even mean?
Yeah, great question. Wonderful question.
And that a lot of people, you recognized it. There are those that would listen to that and, scratch their heads and question it. But there are many people who interpret that as, oh, this is a religious man.
Yeah.
Because he even said the Bible.
That's my point. And that's why I was concerned. I called a friend afterwards and I said, what do you think? Take our eyes off of it, because we are, so for Kelly, we're so partisan. But what if you're an independent, or if you're a liberal Christian, which I know that's an oxymoron statement, but anyway, you know what I mean. If you saw that, you might think, well, I don't know.
Yeah, well, when he says I'm a reverend and I'm, that he's a charlatan, and that works. That's the kind of Reverend Al Sharpton and Reverend Jesse Jackson, those kinds of reverends. I'm assuming Kelly Loeffler, and she seems to be a very intelligent. We know a bit about her background, and a very serious person, and that came across. And she stuck on message. Someone who's debated a lot, she didn't engage on the personal level like Donald Trump does, where he looks at the opponent and goes, what are you, an idiot? What are you, stupid?
He says exactly what he's thinking.
Yeah. And the commentators criticize Trump when he does that, and they were criticizing her last night. Oh, she's very automated. She's very focused on her message. What was your analysis of Kelly Loeffler's presentation?
I thought she used an awful amount of self-control, which I was very proud of her, because I think that would have been hard to do when some of the things that he said, but she did stay on message. She said over and over, radical, liberal, Reverend Warnock. She wanted to get the message across. And she also over and over quoted things that he had said from his own mouth. So you can't dispute those things. So I thought in that sense, she's very intelligent. I know her well. I've gotten to know her, and she really does fight for Georgians. And, I think it is very sad to me, and I want her to do this more. It's sad to me that people think that because she's wealthy, that's a problem. We live in America. She was raised on a farm. She worked her way up. She was the first person from her family to graduate from college. And yes, now she and her husband have made a lot of money. But what is wrong with that? That is what we want to aspire to for our children and our grandchildren, that we want to teach them. This is the country you can live in. You can do anything if you set your mind to it. But then when you become successful, people want to shoot arrows at you and say that's bad. No. And let me tell you something. She does so much good with her money. She's like Donald Trump. She donates all of her salary. She bought PPP equipment whatever it's called, the protective equipment for a hospital out of her own money. But people want to shoot arrows through that. To me, that is sad.
Well, yeah, this is in our opening. I mentioned, because today's December 7th, that often a philosophical attack against America can be more dangerous than a physical attack. And we have this, and Peter knows it very well. He's written on it, spoken on it, this Marxist Islamic jihad infiltration into the culture to move us towards socialism, and eventually then it necessarily goes to a Marxist view. Peter, give us an overview on the other states. I know you're involved in so much around the country. What the heck is going on, and who's going to be the president on January 20th?
Yeah, well, if I knew that, I'd be a lot more than the national committee man for the Florida. We had a great victory in court on Friday in Michigan, where a circuit court judge ordered that the Dominion voting machines be preserved, not tampered with, not plugged into the internet, so that an inspection could be made of them. We're getting more and more focus on Dominion, who funds them, what's happened with them. Florida got rid of the Dominion voting system 10 years ago when we realized how susceptible they were. We also have suits in Nevada and Arizona, Pennsylvania, also targeting Dominion and what happened. And of course, what happened in Atlanta, Georgia, with these so-called plumbing leaks, which was simply that overflowed so they could evacuate all of the honest people out of the buildings so that they can then bring in all of those ballots. It's quite amazing what's happened. And I've been asked by a lot of liberal news outlets, so, will you accept the results of the election if Mr. Trump doesn't win? And I say, I'll do the same thing the Democrats did in 2017 about accepting the results of the election. Isn't that fair?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's a great way to answer.
Yeah. What we have been doing here at the United West, 936, by the way, I should tell the people, all of you just tuning in right now, we have Ginger Howard as the National Committeewoman for the RNC from Georgia. There's a man and a woman from each state on the Republican side. And we have Peter Feaman, a man and a woman right here, National Committeeman from Florida. Adjoining states, ladies and gentlemen. We have both of them today giving us an understanding of what's going on in Georgia and then elsewhere around the country. Going to be a wild, wild week. Justice Alito, I want you to comment on that in a minute, Peter. Has some stuff going on in Pennsylvania tomorrow. But it's 9:37 in the morning here on the East Coast. Tom Trento, Susie Gold, Jay Mark. I think we got Mary up in Savannah, all working to try to help Georgia right now. And everybody's got to get out. Got to get out and vote in Georgia. WNN 1470, 95.3. Peter, fill us in on what Alito's doing tomorrow, or what seems to be happening in Pennsylvania. And then I want to comment on 3 suits you have going on in Georgia right now, and then we'll probably wrap it up at that point. Go ahead, Peter.
Sure, there's a decent chance that the Supreme Court could invalidate the results of the election in Pennsylvania based on what's already been ruled to be the illegal change of the voting laws on the eve of the election. So that's something to watch very closely. But I want to go back to Florida for 1 second in 2 ways, both what our legislature has done and how we're working together with Georgia. On Friday and Saturday, we had Republican Party of Florida Executive Committee meetings. And then at around noon, we sent hundreds of volunteers into Ginger Howard's great state of Georgia. And we are flooding that state with volunteers. The RNC is got hundreds of people in their paid staff. $200 million is allocated for Georgia. So it's all hands on deck into coming. The cavalry is coming.
All right.
Thank you.
To rescue what's going on in Georgia. And it's amazing. 20 years ago in the 2000 election, Florida was the land of hanging chads and election craziness, and now it's shifted north. But Florida took care of it through their Republican legislature. They had the courage, the political courage, and Governor Scott and Governor DeSantis first to change the laws. And here's what we have in Florida, which is why a state, as Ginger remarked earlier, in 2 time zones can count our ballots in one day. Number one, we allow the counting of absentee or vote by mail long before election day, so that can be kept up. But here's the most important thing that the legislature did. Each county must report to the Secretary of State by 7:30 on election day how many early votes and how many absentee votes have been received. That then sets a universe of the total number of votes, so that on Wednesday and Thursday you can't keep finding votes. What happened in 2018 is that Palm Beach County and Broward refused to send in their vote totals. We sued them. We forced them to comply with the law, and then we removed them from office, those supervisors of elections. And that's due to the political courage of now Senator Scott and Governor DeSantis. And my plea for the Republican leaders of Georgia is to have the moral courage to do the right thing whenever and wherever asked. And with people like Ginger behind them, helping them to do the right thing, I think we can pull this out.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That needs to happen.
Great. That's great.
Ginger, we are the United West here through our radio show and everything we're doing. We've been part of the White House press pool, so we get press credentials to go to whatever the president's doing. And I wasn't able to go, but we sent a crew up to Valdosta over the weekend for the Saturday night rally. Absolutely amazing. I want you to comment on the president. I think we have 30 seconds or so of our team of Sophia and Karen drove all the way up there, got in, shot a bunch of footage that we're going to show throughout the week of an amazing historic moment. And Mark, tell me when you're ready for, check this out. It's a rally, so the audio is a little rally-ish, but here it is, Saturday night in Valdosta.
USA! 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 Our military was decimated, our military was tired, our military was in big trouble. And you remember, I said it a lot, one of the world's most overrated generals came to see me. He said, sir, we have no ammunition. What is the problem with this country? And he said, sir, we have no ammunition. I said, tell me you're not saying that. We didn't have ammunition. Think of it. We have very little ammunition. And I'll never forget that.
All right, he's talking about.
Never happened to a president.
Well, yeah, he's talking. He went on, but yeah, you can stop, Mark. We have a lot of footage, and some of it, obviously, they didn't run mics up to the president. But Ginger, what was your estimation of the president's moment in Valdosta?
Well, as usual, his rallies are just, you have to go to experience it. There's no word except, I think the one word I always say is electric. It's absolutely electric. People love this president. They love what he stands for. And I'm sure you remember when he said, we will never give up. We will never give in. We will never surrender. I mean, I love that. People love a fighter. And that's why we are fighting for him. He fought for us for 4 years with Russia hoax, with impeachment, with all these things that they were just thrown at him. And now it's our turn to fight for him. And that's why I'm so thankful for Peter and other wonderful attorneys across this country that are fighting in the courts to bring about the truth. We want all truth to be revealed. And as Peter said, prayer is the main thing that we can do. We can pray for our president. We can pray for his legal team. We can pray for Rudy Giuliani today, who's been diagnosed with COVID. But his rally just showed him, too, that he is loved in Georgia, and that we are not going to stop fighting for him. I don't know if you remember that point when Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue got up on the stage and they barely said 2 sentences and everybody erupted with fight for Trump, fight for Trump. So we want everyone to know here in Georgia and across the nation, we are fighting for Trump.
All right. And we are doing some work to give you more troops up there. Brandon Straka, the founder of Walk Away, the
Yes.
Democrats Walking Away. He's in Georgia now. I think he's got 1,000 volunteers that have come to the state. We are going to be liaisoning with him. He'll be on our show, our Florida show and our Georgia show, mobilizing the troops. So there's a lot of stuff going on. Let's do this. Peter, why don't you give us a 30-second call to action for the folks listening in Florida, what they can do to help in Georgia, and for the Georgians, because we send this show through Georgia. Then Ginger will have you wrap it up with about a 30-second challenge for everyone out there, because what do we have? 29 days from today, and it's the election. Peter.
I need the website too, once again.
Okay, let's start with the website, Tom. The website to report fraud is DJT, that's Donald J. Trump 45.co.co/stop fraud. DJT 45.co/stop fraud. And I've got to run, but I'll leave you with this. First, I want to thank you, Tom and Ann, for what you do and are doing and have been doing. You are fighting frontline warriors in this, what I call our second Civil War. And here we are. Every generation is called in defense of freedom. It's been like that for 5,000 years, because freedom is not the natural order of things. Freedom must be fought for and protected, like Ronald Reagan said. And every generation is called in defense of freedom. This generation is no different. We may not be wearing a uniform unless we're wearing a red MAGA hat or some other symbol, but this is it. This is the Battle of Gettysburg in our second Civil War. And we need to win this battle or we will lose the Republic. So if you've got a car and you've got time, drive to Georgia. There's no substitute for physical presence. But beyond that, you can also send money to the Republican National Committee. You can send money to the senatorial candidates. And then we're going to organize a huge prayer rally between now and the election, and clearly invoke the powers of that we rely upon to save this country, because we are an anointed country and we will prevail.
Amen. Thank you, Peter.
Amen.
Ginger, your closing thoughts.
Okay, one thing to volunteer here is go to GeorgiaGAGOP.org. GAGOP.org. You can sign up to volunteer. There's a link on there to give money to both the candidates. So GAGOP.org. But as Peter said, as a believer in Jesus, the number one thing we can do is pray. We're going to pray like it's all up to us and work like it's all up to us and pray like it's all up to God. But we can do this, and we need volunteers. We need door knockers. We need people on the ground. We need people that will make phone calls. We need all hands on deck, like Peter said. And the RNC has sent in so much staff, but also from people all over the country. They are coming to volunteer, and that is really what we need right now. So that we just appreciate everybody in the United States keeping Georgia in your prayers. There's a song, Georgia on My Mind, and Georgia is on our mind. January 5th, we have to send Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue back to the Senate. We have to. There is not an and, if, or but. Pray that that election is done with utmost integrity, and that we have all the checks and balances that we need. And pray for us as a party that we stand together to shoulder to shoulder, because we are soldiers in this battle.
Ginger, hold on. Ginger, one of our listeners just texted in. He says they love you what you're doing, but you're wrong. She goes, we're not fighting for Trump. We're fighting for the future of America.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I agree with you too. That's right. Amen.
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Ginger, Howard, thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Peter
Great messages.
Feaman, we appreciate it. Two amazing individuals. And hey, look, folks, we're in the middle of this. Ginger, we will be back with you. We'll contact you to have you on our
I'd love
Georgia
it.
show. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Thank
will
y'all.
be in
Y'all have a
touch.
great day.
Bye.
Have a good day. See you.
Thank you,
Peter, we'll
Ginger.
see you.
God bless you.
All right,
God bless
thank you.
you. So important, I think, what she reiterated, with regard to, we say, well, honest, dishonest election, fraud, and all this stuff, but that how important it is, go out and vote. Make sure that they are inundated so much with votes that they win by landslide. We're talking about Perdue and Loeffler. They've got to win by landslide. So all Georgians that are listening, make sure that you go out and you vote for them. And it's up to the politicians. It's up to, that they will fix the machines, but that landslide could help make that difference.
Yeah, an overwhelming number of votes. The machine can still tweak it, but there's too many eyeballs now. There's too many lawyers, too many people. Everybody's watching. The Dominion people are going to go, we gotta go easy here. All right, we lose the Senate. They get the Senate. Who knows? Great guests. I mean, great people doing amazing work, and Georgia on our mind.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. And they were great. And I think, that, I mean, she's so dynamic, Ginger. And what a representative. Like, here she is. She owns her own business. She knows what it is to own a business. And she's serving as a politician. She's serving as a committee woman, which is an elected position. So you take people who truly want to be servants to their constituents. And I think that what we're seeing politically with those that are really career politicians, those that never had a job. I mean, take Biden, never really was employed, that, they're like career politicians. They get their pensions, they're getting their salaries, they get their kids free education, they vote themselves raises. I mean, these are the people that are truly not our servants, and we need to change that. So we've got this election to be concerned about in Georgia. We've got closure that we still need to get with the presidential election, and then we all need to move forward, and we've got to fix what we have and get these career politicians out, get people in who are truly servants to the communities.
Preach it, Goldie. Susie Gold on a roll here. You're right, 100%. I mean, you get elected, right? Then you got this gigantic budget for your office. Mm-hmm. You hire smart people, usually. If you're a Democrat, you hire smart Democrats, which aren't smart because they're off base on stuff. But you hire them. And somebody like Joe Biden, he has his staff do all his work, mm-hmm. and they bring him stuff. And he goes, let's do this.
He reads the teleprompter.
Yeah, let's go. I'll fly over here. Let's do this. It's a nice life. Mm-hmm. It's a nice life where you don't really have to work that hard. And he's done it for 50 years. Mm-hmm. That's not what the framers had in mind when they. And
I finished the book this weekend from Rich Higgins wrote.
The memo.
Yeah,
yes.
I finished it. And if you read that book, it's really, first of all, it's an easy read, and it also talks about his life, his career. It talks a lot about what we're saying with regard to these career politicians and those that are in the good old boys club. They vote the same, they vote together, they're voting for themselves.
Swamp. He's talked about the swamp.
And and not about putting America first, but really putting themselves first.
I finished this book over the weekend.
I've got to read that.
The Election Heist by Ken Timmerman, our good friend. It's a novel. It's a make-believe book, but he came up with an idea and said, what if they're going to cheat in 2020? How would they do it? And he did all this research with IT people. How would you do it? How could it be done? He puts some of the documentation in the back of the book, and I went through it all. And he almost 100% accurate as to how the election was stolen.
And he wrote that as a fiction.
Yeah, he wrote this at the beginning of the year. The only error he had the battleground state, not Georgia, but guess what state he has as the battleground state?
Yeah, so in that book it was Florida.
Florida.
Yeah.
He has Florida as the battleground state.
Actually, prior to this,
it could have been. So he has Florida, where all the fraud and all the nefarious stuff takes place. Fascinating book. You got to get it. Election Heist. And look, January 5th, when this election's over, the problem of bad elections aren't going to be over. It's just starting. This kind of stuff helps us figure out how to correct it going forward, or actually watch for it when you know what's going on. And the amazing thing is, if you're in a bank and there's 100 people there and a guy comes in and robs it, and you got 100 eyewitnesses that all sign affidavits that they saw this, and you present that to a group of people and they go, there's nothing there. That's what's happening in Georgia. Here's the 3 lawsuits going on in Georgia right now. The main one was 3 of them. The Lynn Wood suit. Lynn Wood is basically saying that the Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, and the Democrats in March settled a lawsuit. The Democrats sued over how to apply signature matching rules to absentee ballots. So to settle the lawsuit, he granted the Democrats rights and privileges that weren't within the legislator's purview, weren't within his purview. It was something that the legislature had to do. So he's suing, saying the wrong person gave them the rights to do this. They did it, and they tweaked all these absentee votes. That's one suit. The next one is the Kraken suit by Sidney Powell, where she's basically saying foreign powers, dominion, all of that. She's in the midst of that lawsuit. That's there. And today at 10 o'clock, there is a hearing in the Northern District on her lawsuit, whether or not it's going to go forward. The third lawsuit is the Trump-David Schaefer lawsuit, where a little different from Kraken. It doesn't go into all the conspiracies of all the countries, but it basically says, and this is what we listed the other day, 60,000 people under 18, 10,000 dead people, 2,000 people with no signatures. They list the normal ways to cheat. So that lawsuit is moving forward in Georgia. And Peter cleared it up quite a bit, where he said that you can certify, but then the lawsuits are to decertify and basically start over. All eyes on Georgia today and tomorrow on Georgia, but also the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Hey, I just want to bring this whole thing full circle for a second, Tom. Back in before World War II, before Pearl Harbor.
Before Pearl Harbor.
You have the Heist book. And
who?
There was a person who wrote the Heist book back then.
Oh, the Heist. Okay.
But the guy's name was General Billy Mitchell. And he predicted that Pearl Harbor would be the attack by air, by aircraft, off of aircraft carriers before there even was an aircraft carrier.
That's interesting.
And then they actually told about all the mock raids in Japan happening before. So, people understand what's going on today the same way they hadn't understood back then. It just mattered, does it get enough press or the right amount of press?
All right. So what do you think, Susie?
Yeah. So I think we have some great guests coming up, so that this week is going to really be a packed
Who do we have tomorrow?
as we ramp up our edutainment for Georgia and also for the completion of who our president
Who do we have
will
tomorrow?
be.
Who do we have tomorrow?
Tomorrow we have it's Tuesday. We have Yukong Zao and also Julius Jackson.
Who's Yukong Zao? I know who he is, but I'm asking you for the audience sake. Who's Yukong Zao?
Yukong Zao. You know who that is.
He runs an organization, Legal Patriots.
Oh,
He's from Communist
China.
China.
He lived in Communist China, and he's going to talk about his experience there in China, living under communism. And then
he's in Georgia.
He started an
working with the
organization
Georgians
here
right
in
now.
Georgia,
Yeah.
and he started an organization in America for Asian Americans against socialism / communism.
And then we have Julius Jackson, our good friend, entrepreneur, and he's the gentleman that marched with Martin Luther King in 1964 in St. Augustine.
He was 17 years old, and he marched. Yeah, with
He's
Martin
going to help
Luther
us
King.
understand the Black community. He's an African American, Julius. He works with Jexit, our Jexit ladies. Great job for the Jexit ladies up there in the rally.
Great job. Safe
We'll get more of that.
travels
We got to
back.
teach them how to plug in the audio, though. All right, tomorrow. That's it for today. The Trento show is winding to a close. Mary, in your pajamas, have a nice day up there. We'll be in touch, and we'll see everybody tomorrow.
Make
Take
it a
care.
great day,
Have
everybody.
a wonderful
We
day.
got 10 seconds left. I'm going to say, if you want to go armyfortrump.com and just type in voter fraud issue report form, voter fraud issue report form, armyfortrump.com. That's where you can report all voter fraud.
Okay.
There you
We'll
go.
see you tomorrow.
There you have it. Have a great day.